violent clashes between the Hells Angels and a rival gang may have been acts of retaliation, possibly connected to a murder. While the police continue to investigate the Hells Angels, there is hope that these events could mark the beginning of the end for the chapter. Let's focus on a name that keeps resurfacing in police records, a name synonymous with fear and violence. Necati Arabaci, better known as the Godfather of Cologne. Arabaci is considered one of Europe's most dangerous criminals. He lives by his own rules and controls a vast criminal empire with an iron grip. In the 1990s, Arabaci used his legitimate-looking security businesses and nightclubs in Cologne to rise through the ranks. His influence quickly expanded across the Ruhr area and eventually across all of Germany, but he didn't stop there. Arabaci spread his empire throughout Europe, tapping into a variety of industries. Today, he is closely linked with the Turkish mafia and semi-legitimate South American suppliers. Despite being banned from the Schengen area due to his criminal record, he has managed to retain political support in some regions. Recently, videos of Arabaci have been appearing throughout Europe, raising questions about his plans. To truly understand how he built his empire, we need to go back to the early 1990s, when his empire was just beginning. During that time, the underground economy was a chaotic, lawless environment. Nightlife was a hub for organized crime. Legal gray areas, such as the leasing of women, were exploited by criminals who operated with near impunity. Gangs formed alliances and imposed so-called partnership taxes on businesses, forcing owners to pay in exchange for protection. After the collapse of the Soviet Union, many Eastern European women were trafficked into this dark world, some by force, others through manipulation. They were often kept dependent through drugs and exploited for profit. The world they were trapped in was filled with violence, addiction, and no way out. For the young Arabaci, then just about 20 years old, this brutal industry represented a major opportunity. He was not interested in living a modest life. Arabaci wanted power, wealth, and influence, and he was willing to do anything to get it. Using his strategic mindset, he aligned himself with the Hells Angels, gaining protection and connections. This helped him establish control in Cologne's underworld, beginning with the bouncer business. Rumors say he extorted money from bouncers through the Hells Angels, offering protection in return. Soon, Arabaci had over 120 men under his influence and was making large sums of money. But his ambitions didn't stop there. Once people paid for his protection, they were essentially locked into a lifelong relationship with him. Arabaci began expanding into even darker enterprises. His bouncer business was only the beginning. He moved into the adult entertainment industry, an extremely dangerous and competitive market. Without solid connections, newcomers were easy prey. Arabaci took shares in numerous shady establishments and made them profitable. He hired women, many from Eastern Europe, managed operations, and ran strategic marketing campaigns. He used frontmen to hide his ownership and eventually hired managers to run things, allowing him to earn money while remaining in the shadows. This strategy kept law enforcement at bay for years. Those who refused to pay for protection were forced out. He quickly became the dominant figure in Cologne's nightlife and earned the nickname the Godfather of Cologne. His influence spread to Frankfurt and the greater Ruhr region. Though he initially concealed his wealth through the fruit trade, it soon became impossible to hide. In 2002, police raided several clubs in the Cologne area as part of a crackdown on organized crime. Arabaci was arrested and a slew of charges followed, including extortion, human trafficking, and operating a criminal organization. His trial became a media spectacle, and he was eventually sentenced to 9 years in prison. But prison didn't stop Arabaci. From behind bars, he continued to run his empire. Authorities discovered this after wiretapping his cell, where they learned he had even ordered threats against the prosecutor who led his case. That prosecutor was forced to live under tight security and eventually fled the country in 2007. Despite his sentence, Arabaci served only 3 years. In exchange for his early release, he agreed never to return to Germany and was deported to Turkey. But Arabaci wasn't done. In fact, he was just getting started. By 2008, the Hells Angels were expanding into Spain, and Arabaci led the charge. The island of Mallorca, filled with German tourists and partygoers, became a perfect base. Trusted associates like the Yusfi brothers and Hannah B. F. helped establish the now infamous Hells Angels charter on the island. Their reign was short-lived. Spanish police arrested them on charges including drug trafficking and running illegal prostitution rings. The trio remains in prison. Meanwhile, Arabaci took full control of the Hells Angels charter in Turkey and became a key figure in the Turkish criminal underworld. Rumors suggest he still controls much of his old empire in North Rhine-Westphalia. He built new fun houses in Turkey and partnered with Afghan heroin suppliers, using Turkey as a gateway into Europe. He also invested in fireworks as a new source of income. Despite being banned from Spain, reports indicate Arabaci was present in Mallorca in 2010, the year the Hells Angels Charter was formally founded there. To strengthen his influence, he promoted loyal associates into leadership positions, including the Yusfi brothers and the infamous Frank Hannibeth, a powerful underworld figure from Hanover. Together, they turned Mallorca into a criminal goldmine. Hannibeth had already solidified control over much of the island's nightlife. With Arabaci's backing, the Hells Angels expanded their influence throughout the region. Necati Arabaci found a gold mine in Mallorca, with its subtropical climate and status as a top destination for party-loving tourists from across Europe. The island offered a perfect blend of opportunity and cover. Its geographic position, close to mainland Europe and North Africa, also made it an ideal hub for smuggling operations, from narcotics to human trafficking. For Arabaci, Mallorca became the ultimate launchpad to expand his already thriving criminal empire. Despite an official ban, Arabaci allegedly entered the island in 2010 to personally oversee the creation of a now legendary Hells Angels charter. His goal was to secure control over Mallorca's criminal economy. To accomplish this, he strategically promoted his most loyal associates, including the Yusfi brothers, into senior positions within the charter. He also partnered with Frank Hannibeth, one of the most influential Hells Angels figures in Europe. Hannibeth had already laid the groundwork in Hanover and Mallorca and was instrumental in building the island's criminal infrastructure. Mallorca's appeal was clear. Its millions of annual visitors, particularly young tourists seeking nightlife and escapism, created ideal conditions for illicit activities to flourish. Overwhelmed by the sheer volume of tourists, local law enforcement struggled to monitor or contain the growing criminal ecosystem. But by 2013, that golden era began to unravel. Spanish authorities launched Operation Casablanca, a large-scale crackdown on organized crime. After months of surveillance and intercepted communications, over 200 police officers raided properties linked to the Hells Angels. Hannibeth was arrested on charges including operating a criminal organization, sending shockwaves throughout Europe. His arrest created a power vacuum and destabilized criminal networks on the island. Further investigation of Hannibeth's communications confirmed Arabaci's direct involvement in the operation. Yet, despite the exposure, Arabaci showed no concern. Confident and untouchable, he continued to coordinate activities from afar. Meanwhile, tensions were growing within the Hells Angels. a cultural and leadership rift emerged between the older German members and the newer Turkish-led faction under Arabaci. German members accused the Turkish group of abandoning the club's traditions. Arabaci, in turn, reportedly held a deep mistrust of the German members, trusting only his Turkish associates. These tensions came to a head in September 2013 when Arabaci's men allegedly stormed the Cologne Hells Angels chapter, violently attacking a fellow member. The incident fractured the club, with several charters breaking away from Arabaci's leadership. Still, he pressed forward, determined to grow his criminal empire despite the internal divisions. Arabaci's name continued to dominate headlines across Europe. He was tied to drug trafficking, money laundering, and violent gang activity. European banks flagged suspicious transactions connected to him, and despite travel bans, he was repeatedly seen in countries where he was officially prohibited. After the 2013 arrest of Hannibal, Spanish authorities issued a European-wide arrest warrant for Arabaci. He faced numerous charges, including human exploitation, drug trafficking, and managing illegal operations in Mallorca involving forced labor. Yet, Arabaci remained untouched, always one step ahead. In June 2018, Turkish special forces launched a high-profile raid in the resort town of Sesme after Arabaci refused to surrender 2 of his men wanted for murder. The operation led to 35 arrests and the seizure of a large cache of firearms. Still, Arabaci's criminal machine kept moving, even when arrested on serious charges, such as ordering a murder linked to his protection donation racket. Arabaci managed to walk free. Despite having achieved wealth, influence, and power, Arabaci's ambition remains unchecked. He isn't content with living a quiet life. He wants more. More control, more territory, more dominance. His long-term goal appears to be nothing less than continental influence. But how long can it last? His empire stretches across borders and remains insulated by a network of powerful allies. Still, pressure from authorities is increasing, and so is scrutiny from rivals. The question now is whether Arabaci can continue to elude justice, or if his eventual downfall is simply a matter of time.